today is that we're going to talk about Rosh Hashanah. We're going to talk about calendar, and because it's on the head, we're getting close to the head of the year, which is very important to figure out how to find Passover, which is the first spring feast. So we're going to talk about calendar today and next week, actually. But then we're going to switch topics and talk about mom. Like I said earlier, for those who who weren't here at the beginning. So we're going to kind of do a couple things today. So we actually have a little cake that we brought into the library that we're going to celebrate with you guys. It's an organic chocolate cake with a little whipped cream that Isaac made for me, because that's my favorite. Homemade, organic chocolate cake. He does the best. And all right, so today we're going to talk about the biblical calendar. Very, very, very important, because if you don't get on the right reckoning of time, then you can't find Passover. So, and you need to be able to find Passover. You need to be able to start that spring feast on the right day, so that you can continue on through the rhythm. As I talk about the rhythm of Yehovah's feasts and festivals, you got to find that first month. You got to be able to find that first day of the year. So Rosh Hashanah means the head of the year. Okay, so it gets really confusing when you're in the Messianic Hebrewites movement, and if you are looking to Judah for all your information, they celebrate Rosh Hashanah in
the fall.
In the fall. On what day?
Yom Teruah.
They celebrate Rosh Hashanah on Yom Teruah, which is completely an error. Okay, Rosh Hashanah means head of the year. There's no such thing as a civil year, according to the scriptures, all right? So it's very clear in the scriptures that Rosh Hashanah is the head of the year in the spring. So we make a really big point of living our life out loud, for the reason of helping Israel kind of get on the right path. And one of those things is dividing the word of truth and figuring out when the true head of the year is. So it's not January 1st in the middle of December or middle of winter, and it's not in the fall on Yom Teruah. That the sages, actually, the rabbis, covered up the true meaning of Yom Teruah by changing it to Rosh Hashanah. So we don't want to do that, because Yom Teruah is all about what?
Yeshua's return.
Yeshua's return. And of course they wanted to cover that up, because they don't want to lose control over the people. Don't want the king reigning. All right. So we are going to define, and I'm going to let Isaac define here, since he's sitting here. I'm going to let you define the difference between calendar versus reckoning of time, because that's huge. Because a lot of people can come together on one of them, but not on the other one.
Okay, I guess by calendar you would mean like the year that has all the particular holidays.
Right.
In a particular order.
Right.
And that would be a calendar.
Right.
So everyone can agree that Shabbat is the set-apart day and that it's the seventh day. But not everyone would agree as to which day and hour that may
be
start on.
Yeah.
And then, and not everyone would agree as to exactly when the year begins. And so how you reckon the time is when you kick off the new year. Right.
So reckoning of time. This is the calendar, like Isaac said. It is Yehovah's calendar that we find in the scriptures. So it's the feast days. So you've got a weekly feast, which is Shabbat. You have a monthly feast, which is the new moon. And you have annual feasts, which are the 7 high Shabbats. And then you have your winter festivals. And that is the calendar rhythm that I talk about. This is Yehovah's calendar. So how you find it, though, is there is so many different ways that people think that they can find it. So there's the, there's the equinox calendar. There is the Enashuan calendar. There is the rabbinical calendar. There's all kinds of different calendars, or not, and reckoning of time. So calendar is a generic, I'm using that word in two different ways, I'm sorry. It's a little bit complicated, but if you're new to this, you're going to be, how should I say, you're going to be approached by many different kinds of calendars, or reckoning of time to find this calendar. And then when you do find the calendar, I mean, there's definitely lots of people saying that you find Shavuot in strange and weird ways. Lots of people saying that a day starts morning to morning instead of the way the scripture says. There's all kinds of, even, so our ministry, we're very serious about promoting the biblical calendar. And we find the biblical calendar in obviously the scriptures. There are some ministries who promote the biblical calendar and ministries that we have learned from, and they just confirm what the scriptures already say. The head of the year is in the spring, and we find it, we'll look at Exodus 12:2, and I don't have obviously a board here to show you, but if you open your scriptures and you turn to Exodus 12:2, he says, "This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." Deuteronomy 16:1, he says, "Observe the month of Aviv and keep the Passover unto Yahshua thy Elohim. For in the month of Aviv, Yahshua thy Elohim brought thee forth out of Egypt by night." So there we see clearly that the first month has a name and you have to observe it. All right, so the name of the first month is Aviv. Just so you know, if you're new to my show, Teshuvah Ministries and our family, we are not Messianic and we are not Hebrew roots. I just want to make that clear up front. We are Melchizedek. And if you don't know what that means, in the video section of this group, if you go back to watch some of the older archived Happy Hippie Hebrew Girl shows, then you can see my teaching on Melchizedek and what we mean by that. But we get confused with people who are Messianic and Hebrew roots, and sometimes it's just easier to say that we are, or we're Jewish, just for a pure sense that it's easier. But Melchizedek acknowledges a change in the law. Melchizedek acknowledges the work of Yahshua and what he did. So that needs to be kind of clearly understood by my audience, that this is how what perspective and mindset we're teaching from. Big teaching and big understanding there that is in some of my other videos. All right. We have in Exodus 34:18, he says, "The feast of unleavened bread shalt thou keep 7 days. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread as I commanded you in the time of the month of Aviv, for in the month of Aviv thou camest out of Egypt." Exodus 23, where he's talking about all the feasts. I know it is. In Exodus 23, where he's talking about the three commanded feasts that we're supposed to keep. One, he mentions that you keep this in the month of Aviv. So it's actually in this. So Melchizedek priests are to be keeping the month of Aviv and acknowledging it and observing it. So when you look at the word observe actually means to sight something. So you're going to actually, so this dark moon nonsense is nonsense, because you have to actually be able to look up in the sky and you have to actually see something. So you're going to see that sliver of the moon. All right, so Aviv is huge. Understanding what Aviv means. Aviv is a stage of ripening in the barley in Israel. And the reason is in Israel around Jerusalem, because during the feast, during the Hag feast or the pilgrimage feast, of which you have 3 a year, you have unleavened bread or Passover during that time, unleavened bread, Shavuot, and Sukkot were pilgrimage feasts, and they would come, thousands of people would come up to Jerusalem to partake in the feast. And for the first fruits wave offering in the spring, so you have Passover, unleavened bread, and then the first fruits wave offering, yes, right here, you would have to have the barley in a stage that could actually be used and offered, but you can't use it unless it's ready to eat, right? So there's this stage of ripening that the scriptures talk about in Exodus 9:31-32, and Leviticus 2:14, and Leviticus 2:14. It talks about the Aviv being caramel, or in Exodus it talks about Aviv being dark. So Nehemiah Gordon has spent his entire life nearly looking at and rediscovering what Aviv means. It doesn't mean green ears, it means a stage of ripening in the barley. So that if they called it, as in it was Aviv, ready to be, in a couple weeks it'd be ready to offer Teshuvah, because at the time of Aviv it could be parched in the fire and eaten, then the new year would be the very next moon, new moon. Okay? So I know that some of you are probably old timers to this whole movement. You probably have a calendar or a reckoning of time that you've been going with for a long time. But I want to challenge you, if you are on another calendar, to reconsider and look at the true biblical calendar. The problem is, when you follow another calendar, then you are following man-made calculations. It is called the astronomically and agriculturally corrected Hebrew biblical calendar. Go forward, go, yeah, there you go. So this is a calendar that we have, and we've bought it for many years. It's been up on our wall. Every year I get a new one that is amazing. And so no, this is a calendar that I highly suggest. Michael Rood, Nehemiah Gordon, Keith Johnson, a whole team of people have established the re-understanding of the barley being Aviv in Israel. There's a team of people in Israel that are associated with Deborah's Date Tree, which you can get on. She's actually on Facebook. They are located in Israel, and they are actually the ones responsible now, after Nehemiah kind of passed the torch to them. They are the ones responsible now for checking to see if the barley is Aviv in Israel, and then they send out a note that it is, and therefore they call it. So we are actually in the process right now of waiting to see if the barley is Aviv. So if the barley is Aviv this next week, then the next new moon, which is on March 18, next Sunday, Shabbat night Sunday, if the barley is Aviv, then that next new moon next Sunday will call Rosh Hashanah. That will be the head of the year. Okay, and then we start counting 14 days to Passover, to Pesach. If by chance the barley is not Aviv, then, yes, you guessed it, there is a 13th month added to the year to make up, to get the calendar back on track, kind of thing. Anyway, and then the next new moon will be Rosh Hashanah. So we've actually had, we threw a Hawaiian party for Rosh Hashanah, and I'm going to tell you why in just a few minutes. We threw a Hawaiian party, and one year it was, we thought the barley was Aviv. We were listening to Nehemiah over in the fields in Israel, and his team talking about it, and we thought it was going to be Aviv. We go and we set up our home, as this big tropical, whatever. We have this, we're all decorated out for Rosh Hashanah, our Hawaiian party, and they call the 13th month. And we're like, oh! We took everything down, put it back in boxes, and 1 month later we took it all back out and we put it all back up for our party. So along that line, I want to just talk to you a second about staying in rhythm with him, and why Papa doesn't want a calculated calendar. Okay, this is really important. Papa wants to walk with you. He wants to walk with you. He wants you to depend on him. He wants you to look at him, not man. So when you walk this calendar and you come up to this feast time where you're trying to figure out when that head of the year is, it is a serious walk with him, because you can't calculate it out. You can't say, well, I know that Passover right now is on April 4th. I don't know that yet. I can't tell you that. Therefore, I cannot plan an event for Passover yet. Very, very frustrating on one hand, very purifying on another hand, because it leaves everything in his control. I am surrendering to him. I'm surrendering my calendar, my days to him, and I'm letting him tell me kind of spontaneously, last minute sometimes, when things are going to happen. And so there's a lot of people who kind of head towards the calculated calendars, the rabbinical calendar, the equinox calendar, anything that can be calculated due to the fact that it's easier to plan your life. You know, people are already planning Sukkot. How can you plan Sukkot? We can't plan Sukkot yet. We don't have an event yet that I've advertised for Sukkot yet because we don't know when it is. So it makes it difficult. But this is the cross, one of the crosses that you bear when you walk with Yahshua into this Melchizedek understanding and into full surrender to Yehovah. You're surrendering your rhythm to his. You're surrendering your calendar to his. You're going to allow him to tell you when you show up for things. And you know, if it's last minute, get used to it. Get used to it. Pack your little box of supplies that you're going to need for Rosh Hashanah and go, are we ready? Is it ready? Is it time? You know, I think that if everybody was on his rhythm, and I think if everybody was allowing for this kind of organic, very spontaneous walk with him, which I think if everybody was doing this, number one, we would all be able to come together pretty quickly, because we would be allowing his calendar to trump everything that we do. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I hear, you know, people saying, well, something came up. Well, I wanted to attend the feast, but something came up. My calendar's getting full because of all these other things, and I don't know when his things are, so I can't plan, so I'm planning all these other things. But if his things trumped our things, then everything else would find its way into our calendar after his things. That's why I don't plan. You can't plan spring break. You can't plan, you know, your feast days yet, because I'm still walking with him. I don't know when it is yet. So we're going to find out this week when Rosh Hashanah is. I think this kind of calendar, it's a rhythm calendar. It can help you go from one to the other beautifully if you have it on your wall and you surrender everything to this calendar. I absolutely love this. And maybe I'll go over, just do an overview of the year, which I intended to kind of come back, kind of get a bird's eye view of all the feasts. This other thing I wanted to point you to was Michael Rood's calendar, the astronomically and agriculturally corrected biblical Hebrew calendar. He has one new one every single year, and in here is a ton of information. How to read his calendar, you know, fallen angels, fallen man, and the Creator's calendar. He talks about the pagan calendar. He talks about being on the Creator's calendar. He talks about the Pharisees or the rabbinical calendar, and how we're not supposed to follow the Pharisees and the rabbis. We have only one rabbi. Remember, we have one rabbi, and that is Yahshua. We do not surrender to other to people. He's also got something that talks about the Lord of Sabbath. He has the last word on the lunar Sabbath. Lunar Sabbath is a joke, so don't get caught up in lunar Sabbath. For anybody who's new to this movement and who is new here to this group and to me, there are a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing that are going to try to get you attached to this, that, and the other thing that are not true. It's definitely, we're unlearning a ton of stuff, but we also are vulnerable, and Hasatan knows this. So be very, very careful when you walk this path and who you're choosing to listen to, and make sure that these people are leading you towards the scriptures. Make sure they're leading you towards Yehovah and Yahshua, ultimately, for sure. One other thing that Isaac and I talk about all the time is, you know, if people would just, you know, there's so many people that are hesitant to choose a calendar because they don't want to make the wrong decision. And I totally understand that, because how do you know? I mean, you don't know some of these people online. You don't know what these teachers, who they're really being sent from. Are they sent from Papa? Are they sent from below? You know, who are they being sent from and who do I listen to? So definitely a tough thing there, and takes a lot of wisdom to find out. But I think that Isaac and I have a solution because we're like, just choose one and then walk out the feast. You know, choose a calendar or a reckoning of time, but choose a calendar and then walk the feast out that year. And if you can find Shavuot the way that the scriptures tells you to find Shavuot, then it's the right calendar. Shavuot is like a key feast to find. It has 2 ways you find it. And the only calendar that will get you to the true Shavuot via the 2 ways that the scriptures tells you to is this biblical calendar. There is no other calendar. Equinox won't get you there. A Noshwan calendar will not get you there. Not the way that the scriptures tells you to get to Shavuot. All right. Anyway, he talks about the month of Aviv, the maiden moon, this sort of thing. He also has beautiful graphs in the back that he spent a lot of time and work and energy with him and his team of people looking at the timeline of the birth of Yohanan ben Zechariah, or John the Baptist, and the birth of Yahshua, all the way to the millennium. So in the 70-week ministry of Yahshua. So this is a fabulous calendar to get that you need. Other calendar is this biblical feast calendar that is mine. I just did it. I just created it, and you need this. And the biblical feast calendar, this is, it's got lots of like information from me about this rhythm being prophetic, this rhythm of the feast. This is what I mean. If you're new to this, I talk about the feast rhythm as a rhythm. So this is a rhythm. It's a yearly rhythm. It's a cycle. Isaac is going to share in a minute. He talks about it we both talk about it as a river. But they're prophetic. They're your lesson plan. This is what Yahweh wants to talk to you about at different times of the year. So right now, we are at the head of the year. And what are we talking about? We're talking about calendar. He wants to talk about his rhythm, his calendar, how to enter it. And he also wants to talk about creation, because head of Rosh Hashanah is very much believed to be the moment he started creating. It makes complete sense. So he creates paradise, starts creating paradise on Rosh Hashanah, the first day. And this is one reason that we have a Hawaiian party, is because we're celebrating paradise. So we're looking at creation, and we look forward to paradise being restored. That's why we have a Hawaiian party for Rosh Hashanah. They are the prophetic. They're the lesson plan. So you don't have to look at the Parsha. You don't have to look at some church's lesson plan. You don't have to try to scour over the internet trying to find, what should I be studying? What should I be studying? This is what you're supposed to be studying, women, people, families. Hello? This is what you're supposed to be studying. Right now, we're studying Rosh Hashanah stuff. In a few days, we're going to get past Rosh Hashanah. We're going to study Passover stuff. Right after that, we're going to study unleavened bread stuff. And then we're going to go to first fruits all the way down the line. And I tell you, it covers everything. You know, everything is covered in here. It leaves so much room for him. Each one of these is full and deep. All these feasts are so layered and prismatic that you will never... You'll never get bored, but you'll never run out of things to study with each of them. They're so beautiful. All right, it's the rhythm of your life. So it's the holy days. It's the holidays. It's the true holidays rhythm. It's provision for you in the middle of living in exile in paganism. It's provision because it gives you something to pour your heart into when the pagans and the pagan rhythm is all around us. It gives you hope. It reminds you. The feasts remind you of who Yahweh is and what they're up to. What Elohim is up to. And the feasts keep us focused. They keep us focused on Yahweh. And they are a sign of your alignment with him. Okay? So the feasts are a sign that you're in covenant, that you're in alignment with him. So this is a beautiful calendar. It's got a lot of our own picture. It is. It's all of my own pictures from feasts in those months. And it has... a way that you can use this calendar on any year, because you're going to write in the pagan date so you can kind of keep track. But down here it gives you directions as to when to put the feast day. Depending on the year, it's going to change as to what day that feast shows up through in the month. But you are going to be able to write that in. And so this is a beautiful calendar to put up on your wall. I want to encourage you. Something that I say all the time is the rubber of repentance hits the road with these feasts. These feasts are going to control your life, honestly. These feasts are going to rule because they are going to determine how you live your life throughout the year. They're going to determine what days you get off. They're going to determine what you're focusing on. He has set this up so that we could, he knows we're party animals, so he set up a ton of feasts so we could have a ton of parties. We're supposed to be social during those times. We're supposed to assemble during the high ones. Frankly, they are supposed to consume your life because what they do is they point you towards him. If you are on the pagan rhythm and you're catering to the pagan rhythm, then you're not in alignment with him. So the rubber of repentance, I believe, hits the road with these feasts because they're going to change what you as a woman put in storage boxes in your basement. They're going to change what you're focused on and what you're beginning to buy things for. You're going to put your money into the feast, your tithe money. You're going to put your own personal money into the feast. You're going to, invite your community and your family into celebrating these constantly. And it's going to be hard because you're going to be alone for a lot of it because not everyone's going to say, yay, I can't wait to get on Yehovah's feast calendar. They're going to be wondering why you're not showing up to their celebrations. But this is where it's going to cost you a lot. Okay, it's one thing, the covenant has all kinds of things in it that are beautiful and that he wants us to do. We're supposed to take care of the poor, the orphans, and the widows. The pagans also do this, right? The pagans do this. We're supposed to do it too, but the pagans do this. What other things are in the covenant? Things like helping your neighbor's donkey out of the ditch. That idea of helping your neighbor and your enemies and stuff. The pagans do this. All right, but in the covenant there is this feast rhythm that the pagans do not do. Other things they do not do is they don't say the name of Yehovah. That's in the covenant. They don't keep Shabbat. There's things in the covenant that a lot of people do, Christians do, but when you become set apart and when you walk in true repentance, this calendar is huge because it's going to require you breaking free from the pagan rhythm and all that's associated with that, all the strings. You're going to throw out all your stuff. You're going to sever some ties with people. It's going to take a lot of work to do, and it's going to cost you a lot. And you are going to get blessed huge from doing it, but this is where I think the rhythm of repentance hits the road. And it's really seen. It's the fruit. It's part of, when you're really, truly teshuving, this is going to be the fruit of your repentance. And everybody around is going to see. You're going to be a light to the nation. This is beautiful. Rosh Hashanah, it's all about paradise being created and about getting on the right, finding that right head of the year so you can begin to walk in this rhythm, in this flow of this river. Passover, Yahshua was the sacrifice at Passover. There's so much that unleavened bread. Yahshua is the bread that we must eat of. First fruits, it's a promise of a final harvest, the ascension. We celebrate the ascension. Ascension's all about Yehovah giving all authority to Yahshua and Yahshua offering it to us to rule with him, to reign with him, and to use his authority. Shavuot's all about the marriage type arrangement that Yehovah wants to have with Israel and getting his last name. And how do you do that? Yom Teruah is all about the king returning. And to claim his bride, Yom Kippur, the court in heaven is open and legal things are done. The transfiguration actually happened on that day, and the change in priesthoods. Yahshua became the high priest on that day. Sukkot is about the bride and groom living together, right? Shemini Atzeret, Papa Yehovah restores paradise in the 8th millennium. And then Hanukkah and Purim are beautiful festivals about about the condition of your heart. Hanukkah is all about your heart becoming dedicated and cleansed and rededicated back to its original purpose, to being a temple for Yahweh. Purim is about, the dress. What dress do you have on? That wedding dress that you need to get into that great wedding feast of the Lamb. And it's about how to prepare to meet the King. And then you have the new moon, which keeps that cycle going. So you're constantly in the cycle of looking for the provision that Papa's given you over the course of the last month and raising your eyes up. Because we're watching the new moons for 2 moons. 2 specific. We're doing this rhythm of the new moons for specifically 2 moons. One is the head of the year, so you can find Pesach, so you got to find that first moon. And the 7th moon, which is Yom Teruah, which is when the King returns. So it's really important to be looking for the moon, so you'll be ready on Yom Teruah. You won't be looking for the moon on that day when he really comes. You'll be looking for him. And then, of course, Shabbat. It's a weekly cycle, and it is all about betrothal, your sign of being betrothed to him. All right, so the feasts are like a dance. It's like a dance. So you're going to get on the dance floor, and you're going to dance with Elohim. This is the dance they want to do. But if you want to dance with some other rhythm from pagan gods, then he'll let you do that, and he will solidify you in that choice. But if you want to repent, then this is how you do it. This is a huge part of repenting, and where your fruits are most seen, where you're seen dancing with the King.
It was about coming to this reckoning of time by simply reading the Scripture.
Just simply reading the Scriptures.
And if you had anything more to say about that, how it sounds like a simple thing to just do a straight read.
It is. I think we want to do, all of us want to ultimately do what the Bible says, do what the Scripture says. And this reckoning of time is completely scriptural. If you look too, you look at what Yahshua was doing. So our rabbi is Yahshua, and we want to do what Yahshua was doing. And I've done research enough to know that at the time of Yahshua, they were following this calendar, the Aviv barley. They were going out and checking the barley. They were, they needed it Aviv at a couple weeks before first fruits, so that the priest could harvest it on first fruits and cut it off of cut the stalks away from the ground, so they could wave them in front of Yahweh on first fruits. So not only does the Torah and the covenant say that shall be the first month to you, the month of Aviv is when you came out of Egypt. How hard is that? I mean, it's so simple. It's so simple that a little child can understand this. It's so simple that a shepherd in the field can understand it. An illiterate person could understand this calendar. You look at the equinox calendar, you look at the different Enashuan.
Just doing a straight read of the Scripture and letting that be enough. I have to tell you, I know one family that I'm aware of, besides ourselves and now you, that has done that has just done a straight read, taken the Bible at face value, and then done what it says, and then let that be enough. And I think that's no small thing. Are we going to trust that Elohim can lead us personally into an understanding, and that the Scripture they've given us is enough, without having an authority or a rabbi or a messianic leader or a ministry or somebody telling us what to do. And I think that's huge, to walk in that level of freedom and a test of our trust. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, that's good. I think we come out of Christianity, and in Christianity we have the pastor and the board and the elders, and we're like this hierarchy thing. But if you understand what Yahshua actually did, what he nailed to the cross and what work he did, he ripped that curtain in half. The curtain ripped in half, which means we have access now to Yahweh, which means that we can be priests unto Yahweh as Yahshua is. And with the indwelling of the Ruach is going to move us to follow that. Perhaps, like in Ezekiel, I think it's Ezekiel that says when it talks about the new covenant, or no, it's Jeremiah, it talks about the new covenant. It kind of sounds like it might be something that happens later. But in reality, what if it was like, he's teaching us right now, each of us individually, like, I don't really need to tell you, except I'm just going to kind of guide you a little bit, give you a little light on that path and put you on that path. But the Ruach is teaching you, just like Isaac was saying, just the scriptures being enough. Yeah, sometimes I've needed people to give me words for things, or for me to go, I didn't see that connection. Oh man! And then the Ruach takes it from there and makes all the connections in me. But so teachers are so important on some level, absolutely. But yeah, just to have a straight read.
Yep.
All these other calendars, by the way, are so complicated that you would have to have PhDs and degrees to understand the calculations and stuff. I mean, Papa wouldn't do that. He's not an elitist. He wants all people to be able to follow him and all people to obey. And so that's one reason I love this biblical calendar that you find in the scriptures, because it really reveals his heart as well. Number one, he wants to walk with us. So he's going to make it not easy for us to plan our own life. And he also wants everyone to be able to walk this path with him, even the illiterate. Can you talk just a bit about your Crazy Water? This is a very, very special book that he has it's been in the making for a little bit. He started it in 2012, but this is so Rosh Hashanah material here, because it's about getting into the river of repentance, the river of Elohim, the feast river. This is like river and how you get into it. So.
Well, I took a stab at writing a little book, and I don't feel like it's done, but maybe it would never be done. So
I know, right?
Yeah, so like I just said.
It's good. It's super good. I love it.
Yeah, it's called Beyond the Crazy Water. Crazy water being a term from whitewater kayaking, and so it kind of uses the whitewater kayaking as a vehicle for the book, and then to compare it to, metaphorically, to feast keeping.
Right.
So I guess I'll just read a couple of paragraphs from the first chapter to kind of give you the idea of how I was looking at this river, this flowing river.
Yeah.
And being kind of like this walk that we're all getting into, and that transition of getting from land into water compared to getting in with a kayak. So as a little teaser, I first talk about a way of entering the water with a kayak called the seal start, which if any of you are kayakers, you know. And that's a fun way, and one of my first attempts ended badly, which briefly tells about in the book. But I'm not going to read that right now. That's in the book. So I'll go to a more basic technique. For kayakers to get into the water is called eddying in. Typically, the water in a river flows much more slowly next to the bank than it does out towards the middle. In many places, there are eddies along the bank where the water is circling in an upstream direction. Mm-hmm. Often eddies form above a boulder or some other projection from the riverbank, which stops or redirects a portion of the water. These are great places to put in, to stop, to regroup, to rest, or whatever. But care must be taken when entering the main flow of the river. Because between the steady downstream current of the main channel of the river and the upstream current of the eddy, there is an unsteady band of crazy water, where a paddler or a feast keeper can find themselves upright in a hurry.
I love it.
Kayakers need to get across the crazy water as quickly as possible so that they can kayak the river.
Right.
So it is for feast keepers.
Right.
They too must get across the crazy water as quickly as possible so they can actually do and enter the Moedim as Yahshua commands.
Yes. That is super good. Super good.
Yeah.
That's like the crazy water was driving us crazy many years ago. All these people, standing on the side of the shores of this rhythm, getting in the way, throwing this calendar, this reckoning of time. So everybody was confused to the point where no one was actually getting in the water. And this is one of my passions is, get from your head to, your heart. Get your head knowledge into your heart knowledge. And yet, how can you get into heart knowledge if everyone's standing around saying, no, you're not on the right calendar. No, you're not on the right calendar. No, it's not here. No, it's here. And then making it so complicated. It's about delighting, and it's about actually getting in the river. It's like, get past the crazy making. So we're here to try to simplify and try to help get rid of that, that chaos making. I love Isaac's book. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love it. Isaac, I have been after you for years to finish this.
Okay. I'll skip ahead just a little bit.
Okay.
So getting in the river was meant to be simple. Mm-hmm. And it should be as simple as jumping into a river. Mm-hmm. But it's not. Thanks to people.
Right.
Thanks to mostly well-intentioned, but also mostly blind and misled people. The problem, as I see it, is that there are just way too many knuckleheads standing in the river. The shallow water right next to the bank tends to be crowded with the thick-headed and the stiff-necked.
Yep.
People who are not flowing with the river, but are wading upstream, following little eddies, searching for pretty rocks, generally avoiding the deeper water at all costs. And there's a lot of talk.
Yes.
A lot of positioning, a lot of claims being made as to who was first in the river, who's been in the river the longest, who's qualified to interpret and teach about the river.
Yeah.
In fact, that is about all that is really going on, just a lot of talk. People are full of talk about the Moedim, but few are actually doing them.
Right.
We were not meant to study the Moedim,
Right.
we are meant to do them.
Right.
We are meant to enter them, and they will teach us.
Yep.
We are meant to jump into the deep water and be carried away.
Right.
Most people don't even know that there is deeper water available. Yep. They do not know that the point is to be all in. It has never occurred to most people to move into deeper water and then pick their feet up.
I love that. Oh man, will you please finish this book? This is so amazing because what he's saying here is that this calendar, this rhythm, Papa wants to teach you. Papa wants to teach you what he wants to teach you, and you have to get into the river of the feast days in order to know what he wants to teach you. So if you're confused about who to listen to, if you're confused about what I'm supposed to be studying right now, this is what you're supposed to be studying. The feast rhythm. You're supposed to get past the crazy making and jump into the river and just start celebrating and do it I do it like my life depends on it. Because literally my life does depend on it. If I want to hear Yehovah, then I've got to be in sync with him and in rhythm with him. Because if I'm not, I'm missing feast days, I'm missing his appointments, I'm missing his what he wants to talk about. So I absolutely love that analogy. You're going to finish this book, right?
Yeah, maybe I should.
Yes, I think you should. It's been long enough. It's a small book, but so powerful. I think your words are extremely... He's a great writer. Isaac has a bachelor's degree in creative writing, and he's an amazing writer. So thank you. We're here to simplify stuff for you. We're here to encourage you, inspire you, and push you into the river if we have to. No, I can't push you anyway, but I can sure invite. Come on, let's go swimming.
It's nice. The water's fine.
The water feels good. The water feels wonderful. Come swim with us. Come raft this river with us. Absolutely. Something that, just on a side note, the mikvah, and I don't know if, anyway, the mikvah, when he said lift your feet up, one of the things you do in the mikvah is you get into the river, the moving river, living water, and you pick your feet up, and you let him carry you idea. You let him wash everything away, but also that idea that you picked your feet up off the ground, and you're not going to stand on your own anymore, and you're going to let him take you where he wants to take you. It's a great little word picture.
Today's Rebekah's birthday.
Ta-da!
And we decided to, instead of taking the day off, to come do a birthday show, to share it with the group. And so we're going to pick on Rebekah for a little bit. That's kind of why we're here, actually.
Because otherwise they like watching from home. They like watching Hadassah and I from home in their
Yeah.
PJs with tea and biscuits.
Yeah. But I wanted to, by way of kind of introduction to this segment, and also to, if there's any new people watching, by way of introduction to Rebekah, I just had to tell you a little something about Rebekah and why we're doing this. It's going to be fun, it's entertaining, and that's cool. But it's going to be more than that, because...
You mean what we're going to do right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is Rebekah. This is how Rebekah teaches. Is she shares her own walk and her own observance. I always say about her that her teaching is her observance. Like, she doesn't observe a feast by doing a teaching.
Right.
She teaches by doing an observance. Rebekah is without a doubt. And I think she always has been.
Be nice. I've always been what?
I just think that Rebekah was like born for this. I really do. I think that there was something the world needed, and 49 years ago, believe it or not, I know it's hard to believe, but there was like this little gift that like the world needed, but that maybe the world like wasn't quite ready for, and still has not quite figured out what to do with. But that the world was like very like hungry for. What did we bring here?
Okay, so we have. Oh, give me a kiss.
Is this it? Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Cool. Is it here?
Yes. So this is Rebekah trivia. We have Rebekah trivia cards.
Okay.
And then we're gonna. Well, so while he's looking at those for just a second, I want to tell you what my plan is. So, my plan for the year. So we're starting Rosh Hashanah, and my plan for the year is to walk with the ladies of Teshuvah in this Facebook group for one whole year through the feast. So I'm going to take the summer off, though. So I'm going to walk with you from now until Shavuot, with maybe a week or so break in the middle during maybe Count of the Obar or something. We'll find a break time, but pretty much solid through until Shavuot. After Shavuot, I'm going to take a summer break so that we can all go work in our gardens and go on vacations and all this stuff. And I'm going to, as I take the summer off, I'm going to create a packet, a program for the ladies and for the world, basically. Yeah, and it's going to be a program that you can buy and to understand what the Ezer Kenegdo role is, to understand how to walk this rhythm of the feasts as the beauty, as the Ezer Kenegdo and all that. So I'm going to actually create that this summer. Then I'll come back right before Yom Teruah with you to walk through the fall feast with you and back into Hanukkah and Purim. And then I will be on my 50th birthday. I know, hard to believe, huh?
Yeah.
Expect a big party, right?
I expect a big party. I would like a big party. So on my 50th, we're going to have a big party here with you guys probably. And then I'm going to take a sabbatical for a year. So that's going to be my Jubilee year. So that's my plan. Just wanted to be upfront with you guys. So it's my time here on Facebook is limited on some level. So I'm glad that you're here. Please add your friends. I'm also doing, just so you know, we are doing in this summer, we're going to do a convention in Colorado, if you don't know. I wanted 49 registrations for the Colorado convention. So maybe tonight, after sunset, go and get and plan to come to be with our family, with me. Isaac is going to do a men's retreat at the same time. The girls and I are going to be are going to be putting on the women's retreat. You're going to love it. So I have lots of information there about that. But that's what I want for my birthday. I want 49 registrations by tomorrow morning. So anyway.
Rebekah lives with a lot of hope. She like she breathes it like air.
I do. All right, that's done.
Yep. All right, so here, girls, jump in here whenever you like. These are just some little
Okay.
topics for us to discuss.
To talk
To
about.
kind of just share our experience of Rebekah. We call it Rebekah trivia.
Rebekah trivia.
All right, this one says Melchizedek feast diva. It said flash feast. Rebekah has been trying to have a stable location where we could set it up the same way every time, every year, and have all the stuff in the same place.
So nice.
And we're starting to figure out that she's starting to think maybe she should just embrace what we're now calling flash feast, because they just pop up in a random location.
Yeah.
Every year it's different.
Yeah.
The decorations are always different.
Yeah.
It's like a unique experience every single time.
Yep. Flash feast, like a flash.
Everyone's different.
Everyone's different, and then disappear because they flash up. So it's like, whoo! All of a sudden we're at the library or a school or on the beach, and here's this feast, and everybody's like, whoa, what's that? And then a few hours later they're down.
Yep.
So it's a ton of work. It's not the way that we want it to be, and I know that Yahshua will have it different. And when he comes in his kingdom, we'll have a big old storage unit, and he'll say, Rebekah, have at it, and I'll be like, yes. That's what I want to do. Is I really, really, really want to work for the king. Okay.
And she's
At the
also
feast.
That is what you do.
I think about that 24/7. That's what I do.
Yep. All right, these are in no particular order. This one says Beverly Hills Granny. Y'all know the show, the Beverly Hillbillies? That'll show the kids watch it on DVD now. And the granny on there, she'd say by 9 a.m. the day's half over.
That's me, man. I'm
Sleeping in is 6 a.m.
If I sleeping in for me is about 6:30, 7, pushing it. But because I'm normally up at stupid 30, I'm normally up really early to work and to be with Papa. And they wake me up. Elohim, the Rock, wake me up. But yeah, Granny, I love Beverly Hillbillies show. I like Beverly Hillbillies. I like Gilligan's Island. I like Dick Van Dyke.
Waltons.
I love the Waltons. Oh, that music puts me back into my childhood. What else do I like? I like Little House on the Prairie, except the drama is just a little too much for my heart. I always wanted to be Ma Ingalls. I like Hogan's Heroes. I love Hogan's Heroes. So, but yeah, by 9 a.m., man, half the day's over, and I'm like, what are you doing? Still in bed? I've already exercised. I've already made my bed. I've already had pretty much breakfast. I've worked for 4 hours.
Produced a video.
And they're all still sleeping.
Written a book.
Yep.
Together. Another.
Right.
And then about the time the sun goes down, it starts to get dark out. Rebekah's ready to go to bed.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm
We're so wide awake. Turn your lights off and go to bed.
Yeah, and we live in pretty much a one-room cabin. It has, we moved our bedroom, so we did have one bedroom with a door that was ours, but then just recently we moved everything out of that room into the living room, so now we live in the living room.
So that she can have an office.
So that I can have an office.
To work in at stupid 30 in the morning.
And yet Hadassah has a loft, so she's up in a loft, so her light affects us because we're out in the living room now, and we're like, turn your light off! We gotta go to sleep. I think that's another card later.
Probably so.
Maggie lives in about a 6x6. Is it 6 feet?
It's 8x8.
8x8. An 8x8 room, and we converted the entryway into the cabin.
Yep.
Into a little room for her because she's 18, and we're like, oh, I just wanted to have some privacy and a door. She hadn't had a door most of her life. Neither girl has had a door for most of their life. Everything's been lofts or, just all together. When we did the tour, Hadassah slept on our feet. We were in a little RV, a
21-foot RV.
Yeah.
This family of 4 lived in with a dog and a cat. Imagine that.
Maggie had the little place above, what do you call that? That protrudes over.
Yeah, the little loft bed that's above the cab.
Yeah, and that was your room. Hadassah slept on our feet. Because that was for what? How many months did we do that? 4 months.
4 months. Okay. And Rebekah never takes naps.
No.
Except
when
she's sunbathing.
That's right.
Rebekah is
an
the
instant nap.
queen.
Obsessed with the sun. Sunbathing on the beach.
Say that
during
again.
summer.
Say that again.
She's obsessed with the sun. If it's sunny outside and it's the least bit warm, like above 40 degrees outside, she will get her swimsuit on and her oil on, and she will go outside and sunbathe. I have
Have to
seen
have
her
the oil.
sunbathe in snow before.
You've seen me sunbathe in snow? Oh, totally.
Yeah. She says her skin is like a solar panel.
That's
And
right.
she has to charge her batteries.
That's right. I feel like a solar panel. Like I'm saving up all this energy for the long North Idaho winters. I can't stand them anymore. I can barely stand them. But if I save up enough sunshine, so I'm always out there. Yeah,
For
sunbathing.
example, when she was
Hold on.
when she was pregnant, I took a shovel and dug a little hole in the backyard so that she could roll over
And lay on her back.
and lay on her stomach.
I would like lay on my back and then I'd roll over on my tummy and I had this big hole I could put. But Isaac likes my skin in the summer because it feels so nice because I use olive oil to sunbathe with. So I don't have any skin issues. People that tell you don't get in the sun, they're full of it. Okay, you need the sun for many, many reasons. Just be careful. You don't want to burn. That's the issues. So I'm very, very very methodical about it. So in the spring and in May or March, when we start to get a little bit of sun, then I'm like, okay, everybody out. You have to get 10 minutes of sun. So they'll be out for 10 minutes. Next day, 15 minutes. Next day, 20 minutes, or next week, 20. So I grow it gradually so that in the dead of summer, when we're right in the middle of summer, in the heat of the day, and we're out, at the beach, in the middle of the afternoon, my family does not burn. We don't burn because we've already built up what your skin, your skin was created to do. It was created to tan in order to keep yourself healthy in the summer or whatnot, and to do the protection. I love it. So it's like eating. I will make my family go outside and sit in the sun before they get food because to me it's like food.
Speaking of which,
give it to me.
here's one word that could describe Rebekah. Rebekah is the queen.
Queen
And
of
like
organic and non-GMO.
Spokesperson
Oh, don't get me started. Don't get
for
me started.
organic.
I was at Boise State, and for one of my senior projects, I did a big research paper on GMO, big ag, and I was already organic before that, but man, after I did that research paper, I got more and more focused and strong on that. So I will not buy anything that is that I know of. I will not go to the store, and I will not spend any money on anything that is not as clean as I can get it. Let's say that.
Most of the
We'll
time,
just go hungry.
Yeah. Most of the time you can go through our cupboards or fridge and there will not be one thing that is not organic or not GMO.
Nope. And if I can, I get raw milk from local dairy farmers. I get local eggs. We used to have our own chickens. We're going to do that again when we homestead here pretty soon. But yeah, if I can get natural, we do a lot of things as organic as possible. But yeah, so when I throw feasts, I ask everybody to bring organic, but they don't do that. They're not as serious as me. But anyway, all right, what's next?
This one's similar.
Oh yeah.
It just says harvest time. Rebekah is kind of old-fashioned in a way.
I am very.
The cupboards are stocked, the pantry's stocked, the freezer's full. It's not because we're preppers.
Nope.
It's just.
And it's not just.
That's what you do.
The cupboards aren't full of processed food. The cupboards are full of
Canned goods.
Cans or tubs of rice or of beans or of cornmeal, or I got big bins full of flowers and all organic.
And the freezer's full of harvested strawberries and raspberries.
I do harvest. We harvest. So when I grew up on a fruit farm, and I remember very vividly my grandma and my great grandma and my mom sitting outside the farmhouse door in the sunshine, and I remember the screen door would slam shut, and Mom would yell at me, "Stop doing that! Stop slam the screen door!" But they would sit out there and they would snap peas or they would shuck corn, and we would take it to the cannery. And there was this huge, beautiful rhythm of the harvest time. So when we, when I have my own family, there's this. I brought it along with me. I like homemade applesauce a whole lot better than the store-bought stuff. Can I say the word crap?
We will drive from, if you know the geography, we'll drive from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to Hood River, Oregon.
Yep.
To get the apples.
Yep. I don't like any other. I like the very tart apples. So we'll go to Gravenstein. Sorry, not McIntosh. Gravenstein, thank you. But we'll go to the base of Mount Hood to get the apples because they're just the best. Mm-hmm. And we would get 400 pounds at a time, come home, and I'd can basically, 200 jars. So we always do applesauce, we do pears, we do peaches. I harvest all throughout the summer, starting with strawberries and then raspberries and then blueberries and then blackberries. And then morels in the spring.
And then also grapes. We can make that into like a juice or like a Concord juice.
Yep.
Well, we drink for like a Shabbat dinner.
Yep. So I love Isaac's thing. He's into urban harvesting.
Yeah, urban foraging.
Urban foraging. Tell us about that.
That's not my show.
I love it though.
I love foraging.
Yeah.
I love foraging wherever we are, finding out what's growing, what's there.
Yeah. So he found a whole fence line of white grapes.
Yeah.
In a parking lot and told me about it, and so we've been harvesting grapes there, sneaking them.
You gotta sneak in there and pick them all.
You sneak in there, and it's like a flash thing. I have all the girls get out. Okay, pick, put it. Then we go.
But if it's in someone's yard, then I get permission.
Well, yeah.
But we had somebody that had Concord grapes in their backyard, and they were out of control, and they were up their trees and clear up, and they were actually wound up around the power line that ran overhead.
And we came in and took care of it.
Yeah, I didn't pick the ones off the power line, but we did go way up the tree.
That's funny.
So,
all right.
That's fun.
What's next?
Another food theme. It says,
go figure.
"What's the recipe, Mom?" And guess what? Does she know?
No.
She has no idea.
This lady right here does not follow a recipe. She doesn't know how to follow a recipe. She keeps all of her recipes locked inside her brain.
Well,
And she just makes them up as she goes.
I'm like more like a chef.
Yes.
I don't like recipes because I don't know. It limits me.
It's too confining and constricting. It gives her claustrophobia.
I think part of it is because when you are in a situation where you don't have a lot of money to have all the ingredients, you have to improvise, and so I've just been so used to improvising for so long that I'm like, what do I have in the cupboard? What do I have in the fridge? And then I go make something from that. A lot of hashes, a lot of curries, a lot of things that you can't put a name to because I don't know what they are. Yeah. So I had one time, I make granola. So my great-grandma has a beautiful, wonderful granola recipe that she passed down. And somehow I didn't have the recipe, but I had it in my head. And I make it a lot. And one of my friends one time was like, can I have that recipe? And I was like, I don't have a recipe. I can't even really tell you because I just throw. I feel it and I throw it. And so she said, okay, here's what we're going to do. You bring all your ingredients over to my house, tell me what I need to get, and I'm going to bring all mine. And she said, then I'm going to watch you do it, and I'm going to measure. So what she did is
so when Rebekah would go to throw something in the bowl, the girl would catch it.
Yep, she caught it.
With the measuring cup.
And then she
measure it
and wrote it.
And write it down.
So now we have a granola recipe because my friend watched me and wrote down what I was doing.
Yep.
That's why my videos on Facebook or on YouTube about in the kitchen are so chaotic and spastic. It's because it's kind of how it goes. But Hadassah actually just the other day made matzah for us, out of her head. She remembered how I did it, and there's no recipe, she just did it out of her head. Yeah. Doesn't make very good for a book, but I do have one recipe book. It's called Mastery of Matzah, and I did really think that through and put recipes down, so someday. All right.
No, she can do it.
I can, but I don't. What's the recipe, Mom? I don't know. So I'm yelling out across the room. 1 teaspoon of this, 1 tablespoon of that, I think, but I always use my hand. Anyway, go ahead.
Do you want to do that one?
Get Maggie
Can we
started.
talk about ice cream?
Oh, don't get me started!
We have
Don't
so many arguments about ice cream.
We should have a segment that's just called "Don't Get Me Started." It's like a pet peeve sort of thing.
Okay, so
She does it like
there's only one kind of ice cream, okay? It is called vanilla. It is vanilla ice cream. Now, if you want, let's say, I don't know, Oreo ice cream, you go get Oreos and you get your vanilla ice cream, and then you put the Oreos next to the ice cream. Eat it with the ice cream. Crumble it on top of the ice cream. Don't put it in the ice cream and make it's something new. It's not ice cream. It becomes something else. This child works at an ice cream shop. We're not going to name it, okay? But she works at an ice cream shop. She has all these what is that? Play-Doh ice cream?
Yeah.
Play-Doh.
Licorice ice cream.
It's just 32
Black
different
licorice, cotton candy.
Black licorice, cotton candy. What else do you got?
Fruity Tooties.
Fruity Tooties.
Like salted caramel.
Salted caramel. Birthday cake ice cream. What else is it? It's insane. Like
Cookies and cream.
Cookies and
Cookie
dough.
dough.
Okay, so my thing is my thing is if the vanilla ice cream is the stronger flavor in there, then it's okay. So cookies and cream, it's okay. You know, cookie dough ice cream. That's okay because, you know, it's the vanilla ice cream that's strongest and it's not really mixed in. It's like chunks. Right, chunks. We go around and around and around on this, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I can deal with, you know, like a chocolate chip or a cookie dough or perhaps even mint. What is it? Mint chocolate chip? That's okay, but man, these other stupid flavors, I tell you. You want espresso ice cream? It's ridiculous. You get an espresso and then you get your vanilla ice cream and you have your espresso with your ice cream.
Trust me. Don't get Rebekah started.
Yeah.
Unnatural ice cream flavors, which is anything other than vanilla.
That's right.
Superheroes, or
personal property tax, bureaucrats. Can we go on?
Yeah, taxes, bureaucracy, the planning department,
don't
flat
get me.
earth.
Flat earth.
Don't even mention the flat earth.
Don't mention or vaccinations.
GMOs, Monsanto. Don't even say it.
Don't say
She just
it.
has some very strong opinions.
I do, but you love me anyway, right?
You are a quick decision maker.
Yeah.
She's the opposite of me.
Is a woman
She
of
can make
action.
decisions quickly.
I am a woman of action. Like quick decision. Okay, so what are our examples?
What kind of ice cream do you want?
Vanilla?
I would spend hours trying to decide.
Yeah, me too.
What she wants. Vanilla.
It's already established. It's
All right.
established the
Let's
vanilla.
get another.
How about pack your bags, girls? We're going to Israel.
I was totally shocked.
That's right. Quick decision maker.
And
So
Maggie's like, we're what?
quick decision maker, as in I'm just not one to sit for a long time humming and hawing about something. It's like I can know pretty quickly whether I want to even entertain the thought any further. So I don't stress a whole lot about decisions. I'm like, jump in the water, jump in the river. It's like this whole jump in the river thing and start this Moedim walk, you know. I didn't have to sit with it for 15 years and go, should I not? Is this right? Is this wrong? It's like, no, I see it. And I was like just so full of the ruck and I knew and just jump. It was very easy.
And this is exactly what she wants you all to do concerning the Colorado Convention.
That's right.
She wants you guys just to
Jump.
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 Free fall.
Free
Make
fall.
a decision.
Like this
Fall
guy.
over the rock. And come.
That's right.
Interestingly enough, we're not talking about this movement.
No.
It's not,
No.
We're not talking about the Feast-Keeping Hebrews movement. We're
No.
talking about the East Mullen Historic District, downtown Coeur d'Alene.
Yes.
We had a little house, downtown Coeur d'Alene, maple tree lined streets, just classic white picket fence sort of neighborhood. And one day she found out that developers were planning to put up a 14-story high-rise
Yep.
right behind our house. And she said,
Not on my
"Oh,
time."
no, you're not." And she put the baby on her hip and she went door to door, and I'm kidding you not, she had like 250 signatures before the day was out. And she roused up the peasants with the pitchforks, and we went to that city hall meeting
It was the next Tuesday night.
because they
I
were
think.
trying to change the zoning to put this development
Yeah.
through, and they could not believe how many people showed up, and we all took turns speaking,
Yeah.
and those developers basically went out the door with their tails between their legs.
We had a party in the street.
They had no idea what happened, and this East Mullen Historic District was formed, and it still exists, and we have nothing to do with it anymore.
No.
We asked to not be, when we formed it, we asked not to be made officers. She asked to not be made president or anything.
Because I knew that wasn't my calling, but I
Yeah.
also had to fight.
She had to fight the battle because it was the one that came to her and was in her lap. But then we handed it off to someone else because it wasn't it wasn't her calling, her
Yeah.
mission.
Yeah.
But yet it still goes on, and they still tell stories about Rebekah.
Yeah, I mean, every time I see some of those people, they're like, there's the mother of the movement. I mean, I may have like one little sentence in the history books at some point, but it was the very first win for the locals in Coeur d'Alene against the developers that were coming in. So a few years ago, there was just developers coming in trying to build high rises, and we happen to live really close to downtown. And I was like, "You're not taking the light out of my backyard on my time." So it was delayed.
It's all about the
I
sunbathing.
wanted to sunbathe.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, it can't be in the shadow of a high rise.
No, absolutely
That'll
not. No. So that was fun. The mayor knew me by name. Yeah.
Let's see.
And I didn't even know that the whole thing was being broadcast on
Oh yeah,
on TV.
Community television.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then people would come up on the street, "Hey, I saw you on TV." That thing played over and over for weeks.
For a long
people coming
time.
up and saying, "We've always been dog people, have big dogs, but living downtown, it can be a problem." And
Yeah.
so she went to City Hall, to City Council, to try to push for a dog park. There's
Yep.
dog parks all over now, but this was like 20 years ago
Yeah.
when there were none.
Yeah.
But she was saw the vision, and she proposed it and everything.
Yeah, because I was tired of getting stopped by the cops with my dogs.
Having the dogs in the park.
Yeah, I had my dogs off the leash because they needed to run, and I wasn't supposed to have them in the grass. Of course, you can't have them at the beach, you can't have them on the grass, you can't have them on the street. Where am I going to run my dogs? I can't. Anyway,
Yep.
so I
and
fought that
then,
one as well.
Yep. And then the next day there was a headline in the newspaper, and the article started. It said,
Coeur d'Alene.
"City Hall.
Oh, yes.
City Hall, no friend of man's best friend."
Right.
Because they voted it down.
Yeah, and then I was on the rock station.
But then the rock and roll radio station in Coeur d'Alene had Rebekah on, and she got to say her piece on the radio.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah, that was cool.
I've always been a memory snob in the sense of I will actually do something in order to make a memory. I'm kind of growing out of that now. But sometimes I will do something in order to get a picture. But I love making memories because I feel like your heart needs to be full of memories that Yahweh has, given you life. I mean, when you make a memory, it's about something that you were doing life, and hopefully it's a good memory. And so I would always document my memories with photographs and writing and journals and this sort of thing. So kind of a memory hog, memory snob. I do things sometimes just for the sake of making a memory.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Yeah. Because life is just too hard, you know. If life is just really, really hard, and I feel like, you know, if there's a moment to go lay in the sun, if there's a moment to be a friend to someone, if there's a moment to do a hike instead of sitting on the couch, that's what I want to do so that I can remember what I was created for. And
Yep.
life
She
to live.
and our friend Holly back in college they'd come over to the guy's dorm and drag me out of there and say, "Come with us.
Yes.
We're gonna go make a memory."
Yeah. Yep. I never thought that I would ever be ministering to women because I never had a lot of women friends. I've always been more of a tomboy. I've always had more guy friends than girlfriends. There's always been a special couple girls in my, you know, history of friendships, but other than that, I always knew what to do with. Give me a room full of 300 men, and I totally knew what to do. Give me a room full of 300 women, and no, it freaked me out because women tend to be they can be mean, they can be very, very petty. They can, I've had women look me up and down kind of thing. I don't know, men tend to be more forgiving, except in the Messianic movement. In the Messianic movement and the Hebrews movement, men are the worst. They're awful. But women are too. They can be extremely mean. So, come to find out, when I went to Ransom Heart Femininity Retreat, which just to get me to a big women's retreat like that was a big deal. I just never thought I would be there, but I wanted to be with Papa, and I loved what Stacey Eldridge was putting out. And when I found out how crucial a woman was in the whole story, I wanted to help wake up the Ezer Kenegdos. And so since then, I have totally switched, and I don't even barely remember these days. So I want to minister to women. I want to help them know who they are, and what they're created to do. So that's something about me that is that not many people know.
Rebekah operates from here,
from as Allison says, from my
area,
belly,
rather than this area. In fact, she's so much here that she sometimes forgets that she bumps her head a lot. Is what I'm saying.
This is why we need each other. This is why I need Isaac.
Yeah, she bumps her head into things, so she forgets it's there or where it is.
I do. I have issues with my head.
But the note at the bottom that said Maggie's life. Rebekah trusting her gut instincts. Man, that woman's intuition is like a miracle.
Yeah.
I know on one hand you're never ready to have kids as parents. You're never ready for it. But at the other hand, you have to acknowledge that we've been prepared for it, and a woman has been prepared, equipped. That's a better word. Equipped. With this intuition. If you trust it, if you're in tune with it, and learn to walk with the Ruach, to just play that role is just so amazing. There was a time when
when Maggie
I'm getting a little mixed up because there's been multiple times that this has saved the children's lives.
One story real quick. Maggie was it's a little long. There's 2 times or 3 times with Maggie. So I had a friend, Rosie, who told me when I was brand new mama, she's like, if you hear something that you're not sure of when you have a baby, since it was my first time, I didn't really know what was going on. And she said, if you hear something you don't know, just go check. Just go check. Don't hesitate. So Maggie was little, and she wasn't rolling over, so she was an infant. And she was in her crib, and I had just put her down. She'd been crying. I had been in there, and I was soothing her. And I said, "Good night, Maggie." And I turned around to leave, and as I went out the door into the kitchen, and as I went out, I heard something. And I was so tired. I was like an exhausted mom, hardly any sleep. And I said, "Oh, she's fine." And I continued on into the kitchen, and my friend's words rung in my ears. And I know it was the Ruach HaKodesh that said, that brought that to mind. And I went, oh, okay, I'll turn around. So I turned around, I went back into her room, and she's choking to death on her own vomit. Like, it had filled her mouth up, and she was choking, and she was blue. I flipped her over, cleaned her out, put her back to bed, and I went back into the kitchen, and I fell to the floor. I just slumped down to the floor, and I just started sobbing, realizing what had almost happened and what I almost did not do. That was one. I mean, there's multiple times, and I'm sure every mom out there has had those experiences, because that gut feeling, that intuition is, all women have that gut feeling. So yeah, her life was on the line several times. Before that 17 days old, she had lympholitis, which is a big story, and that's another story for another time. She had, but she's good now. She's totally fine.
More or less.
More or less.
All right, here's a funny phrase that you might hear at our house.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
It says, almost done, 5 more minutes. Those are her most famous words that we hear many times a day. And they don't mean what you think they mean. I mean, by 5 minutes, it usually means about maybe 1.5 to 2 hours. And almost done doesn't mean almost done. It means
Almost
I'm not done, but I'd like you to think that I'm almost done. It's gonna be quite a while.
I'm almost done, but I need more 5 more minutes.
You know how it is on the computer? You think all I got is just a couple more moves, and then I'm done. But then the computer crashes, or you have to do this, or something. A text comes up, or so then it takes a long time. But yeah, I always say I'm almost done, and they're they don't believe me anymore.
20 minutes.
The space-time continuum is kind of bends by the electromagnetic radiation from the computer, and somehow the time is just
stop.
It's a little different time reference.
I
think
It's difficult. I think ever since I started this show,
cyberspace.
it's time has flown. I mean, as soon as I'm done with the show, on Sunday, I'm like, oh man, it's almost Friday. That's what it feels like. It's just going so fast. Okay, what's the next thing? Go ahead, what's that? Oh, we're almost done.
Yep.
Okay. Winter.
Don't get
me started on winter. You live in a teepee for 4 years with children in the dead of the snow, in a snow belt in North Idaho in the winter. Don't get me started.
Because we were created for paradise, where clothes are not necessary.
That's right.
And it never snows.
That's right. There was no snow in paradise. You cannot convince me. There you go.
Well, this one says endless hopefulness. Rebekah, like we already mentioned, Rebekah lives with a lot of hope. She's hopelessly hopeful.
Yeah, I am.
And
hopelessly hopeful.
In a good way. In a good way.
I always think there's hope. If you don't have hope, there's no reason to keep going on. If things can't change, then why get up? But I believe that I'm making a difference. I believe that our lives are important. I believe in hope. I believe that there is this beautiful, glorious future, and I want it so bad.
Rebekah believes with her whole heart in the happily ever after.
I do.
Like the fairy tale is actually true.
I do. It is true.
And that there is a happy ending.
Yes, I do.
And when she doesn't want to be the only person there, she knows that it would make Yahshua supremely happy to get to share it, the happily ever after, with as many folks as possible.
That's right.
So that's why she does what she does.
That's right. And what would a wedding feast be with 1 or 2 people? Boring. The more the merrier.
You gotta have people to have a party.
That's right.
That's true.
Everybody brings their uniqueness to that table, to the kingdom, and I want to be there with and to just soak it all in, and so excited, hopeful. Everything that I've dreamed of, everything that I desire that I haven't been able to get, the new body, where you're not aching and sore, no winter. I mean, tropical paradise, all of it, everything that I want to do with my life that I can't do here because of lack of money, lack of energy, lack of time, whatever. I know that it will happen in the future. So that's why I can, with all my heart and joy, surrender everything and just work for him full time. And because I know that in the future he knows what the desires of my heart are, and he's going to give them to me.
Yep. Every hope that's gone unanswered and every dream that has not come true has a place, and Rebekah puts it in a safe place, which is in Papa's pocket.
Papa's pocket. It's in Papa's pocket. He knows.
And it will, and that life will be lived and realized. She will be Mrs. Ingalls. Little Ma Ingalls. And have that little cabin in Walnut Grove. And she will get to live that life.
Yeah.
In perfection.
I will.
Yeah.
I will also get to live the Blue Lagoon life with
Yep.
tropical long hair that covers everything, and you just when you turn in the waves, it like sparkle. What is those? Those that fluorescent sparkle, and where you can eat pineapple and papaya all day long. And actually, here's what I aside from that sort of idea of paradise, I also think that not only are we going to be restored to the original idea, which is along that lines, but now that the war has happened, I also believe, and I've always believed, that there's going to be opportunity to, number one, we're going to work in Yeshua's kingdom. So there may be moments where you have times like paradise kind of thing, like I was talking about with the white sand beaches and all that stuff. But I also know that during the millennium, we're going to work with Yeshua, and I want to have a place in his palace. I really do. I want to have a position in his palace. I want to host the feast for him and his father. But I've also always believed that Yehovah would say, oh, Rebekah, I want him to come. I believe he's going to come to my door someday, and he's going to say, hey, Rebekah, I want you to come with me to this world over here, and I'm going to let you have the stage. I want you to tell these people, these entities that I created, this planet. I want you to tell them about your experience on the earth and what it was like, to obey me during the war and just all that stuff. I want to have a rich story that Yehovah will be able to say, I know who I want to talk to this world. So it's not just about laying back and, sipping on coconut milk and pineapple juice, There's going to be a time for that because we're all very tired. Yeah. Lots of counseling, I'm sure, with Yeshua and Papa, in some cafe in Jerusalem. I see all kinds. I just am full of hope. If I can dream it,
well, and anyone who would write Rebekah off as a dreamer and say she's projecting things, I would say, if you don't live with a deep hope and excitement for the next life, then I would say please do not settle for anything less, because you cannot dream better dreams than Papa can.
Right.
You cannot dream bigger than he can.
Right. No. And to we're born with desires. We're born with a need for fulfillment and success and beauty and adventure and all the things that we were created for. We're born with all those things, and as you go through life, you find out, oh, I so want to be a figure skater, or man, I want to be a concert pianist, or I want to do this or that. All those things are great. Those are written on your heart. It's just that not all of us can actually, experience the fulfillment of those things here because there's a war going on. And so I know that there's a formula that Yeshua marks out in the scriptures as to how to get, what we're supposed to be doing with our time right now in order to get to the happily ever after. And that is, you want these things, then feed my sheep, then go to scattered Israel, then, fish and
Well,
and He will provide. Those dreams will come true later, and I'm okay with that. I'm truly okay with that.
so when we were back in college, Rebekah was moving. She said one day, she's like, "Hey, I'm moving across town to a different like apartment or whatever. Can you help me move?" And knowing her, I said, "Okay, I will come help you on one condition: that you have everything packed before we get there. You know, before we show up with a pickup." Because I know her, and she promised. She said, "Oh yeah, it'll all be packed, everything." Okay, so we're there moving her out of the house, and I'm carrying stacks of clothes, like loose, in my hands, out to the truck.
And it makes him so mad. He's like,
That's
"You're
not
supposed to be
how you do
packed."
it.
And so guess what? We're not just friends anymore. We got married, and he has had to do this umpteen times, but I've also learned how to pack properly. Better. Right?
She's packed our entire house more than once.
More than once, and I do a good job. But back then, it was hilarious. Packing has always been an issue, and the
Deep cleaning and sorting.
the sorting, the deep cleaning. So when I go to pack or we're moving or something, I'll take an entire room out and I will put it. So I'll take the bedroom out and I'll put everything in the living room, and then I will look through everything and pick up each piece, and I'll decide, does it go to Goodwill? Do I need to sell it? Do I keep it? Do I put it? So then I will clean that way and put everything back, and I can do that really fast.
When we cleaned the basement back when we had one, we took. That's where all the storage was. We
Everything.
we emptied the basement out
That's right.
onto the lawn.
That's the best way. It's clean. Then you can really see what you have and see the space that you have to put
It's
it
like total commitment.
Yes.
Because they were predicting rain.
in.
And so you have to get it
So
done.
it was rain. Yeah, rain. You have to do it. Do it fast.
Well, when we had kids, we were a family of 4 living in an 850 square foot home downtown Coeur d'Alene. Well, half of that, one of the 2 bedrooms, half the living room, was given up with a partition for office space. So that was her
I've been
office.
struggling
and
with office
for her
space for
business,
most of my life.
and she had employees in there. And so the family then lived in the other half of the house, which was maybe like 500 square feet or less.
If that.
Probably 4 or something.
Yeah.
And that's what we lived in.
Yeah.
Then we moved from there to a
Teepee.
26-foot diameter teepee.
And then to an RV, 21-foot RV, and now we're in a 500-foot cabin.
Teepee had a living room, it had a mudroom, a living room, a kitchen, a bathroom,
Yeah, and a lot.
and a sleeping loft. Girls' room.
Yep.
Yep.
But I would constantly be in mode of trying to find inches, because the more inches you could get, the more space you could have. So I ended up earning the nickname of Queen of Inches.
Because you could rearrange all the furniture and gain like several square feet
Yeah.
for the girls to like have a space to like dance in or something.
Yeah. So that was, yeah. I still
Yep.
do that. I still do that, trying to figure out how to make our stuff
Family of
work in
4.
small spaces. You know, I think one of the things that I would really like to have to figure out how to deal with, I've dealt with so many different issues. One of them would be, how do you deal with a lot of money? How do you deal with a lot of space? I think that would be a lot of money and a lot of space. Like, how, let's see this on you, Rebekah. How are you going to deal with this? A new challenge.
I think so.
I think I would love
I think
that.
that could be next.
I hope so. A new space, a big space.
She has a thing with to-do lists. She likes to write everything that she thinks of, all her ideas, everything she needs to buy on random pieces of paper that are strewn about the house. And it's difficult to find, hey, can you go find my shopping list? And so you find like about 5 different pieces of paper with like different parts of her shopping list. And then when she's done with those lists, she'll crumple them up so you find crumpled
throw
paper
them.
around.
Well,
When-
it's not that bad, but
When I make a
Terrible.
Well, and on the to-do list, when I make a to-do list, I'll write a list, and I'll have like maybe 6 or 7 items on it, and I'll say, yeah, that looks like about a day's work. That's good. Rebekah will the whole page, both sides, for one day's to-do list might have enough work for like a week
6 months.
on it.
Like that.
But I'm working on things. I'm chewing
But
it
she
off.
says she gets more done that way. And I
Yeah,
think
but
that's great.
now, I've kind of lost my mind on some level, so I tape my to-do list up to the window, the door. Our door is like full window almost, so I'll tape it up there, and so you'll see this long. I have it in sometimes order of the first thing I need to do, and then something I need to do in a week or two. But then I'll take it off. It's very gratifying to like crumple it up.
So this is a question we're going to ask each of us. At least I'm game. And I'll go first.
Okay.
Because I've learned from...
What has Mom taught you?
Well, I don't call you Mom, but...
Not you. Yeah, I'm talking to Adasa.
Oh, I thought it was open for everyone. Never mind.
She taught me how to...
We like each other, too, which most of the time we like each other.
She taught me how to celebrate Shabbat and then the moons and all this feast and stuff. So
I taught you how to make bread.
Huh?
Taught you how to do matzah.
And then
I taught you a lot.
Yeah, she taught me a lot. So on the feast of it.
What have you taught me?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. There's a lot of things, but I think one of the things would be how to make the feast pretty.
Yeah.
I think if I had learned from anyone else, it wouldn't have been.
Aww.
It wouldn't have had the. I'm all about pretty. I'd rather have pretty than fun.
Yeah.
I'm not about having games on Pesach or. Yeah. I'd rather have the nice atmosphere. I'd rather sit in a tent and do in the nice atmosphere and do nothing than have paper plates and have all this fun stuff planned. But so I think that's the main thing that I've learned from you is how to make the feast beautiful.
Cool.
How to kind of play with atmosphere.
Yeah. That's interesting because Maggie has definitely like embraced the feast, and last year she did Purim completely on her own. Like from start to finish, we were in the middle of all kinds of stuff, and I'm confident that she will, come around Pesach, come around Shavuot, come around all these feasts. She'll know exactly what to do, and she will do it for her own family. So I'm confident in that. But she likes the atmosphere, so that's something I'm big on, is creating the atmosphere to hang out in, to fellowship in, to just sit and soak in. So it's not the time for table games. It's not the time for, games that you can do other times of the year. Or for fun that you can do other times during the year. Those are special days.
Okay, I thought about this, and I'm sure there's many things, but the one that came to mind has kind of been a lifelong lesson that I've learned from Rebekah is that...
I'm so listening.
Are you on the edge of your seat?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Is that I have the power to affect people, and that it matters.
Yes.
So, just to explain, in my 20s, etc., I was very much a withdrawn loner. So some friends would drag me to a party, and I would basically go sit in the corner, and really not talk to anyone, mostly. Yeah. And I didn't think it mattered. I really thought I had no effect on people. I didn't think I mattered. But she taught me that I do, and that you affect people by how you interact with them. Even if you don't interact with them, if you ignore somebody, then you make that person feel ignored. Right. And that was a big realization for me and a hard realization for me to come to. But it has made a huge difference for me. Yeah, we affect people when we walk into the room, when we present ourselves. Somehow you affect people. So if your presence is, if you're withdrawn or you're pulled back and you're actually inside, you don't feel like you're presenting in the way you do, but you actually are very much affecting people. So I'm big on that. What you do, how you present yourself, you're going to, for good or for bad, with the fruit of it. So yeah. Cool, thank you. Some people think that we shouldn't be celebrating birthdays because the scriptures doesn't say that we should be celebrating a birthday, right? We would like to make the argument, though, that there are, in the genealogies, how old they were. You know that Yahshua was 2 years old when the Magi came. You know that he was 12 years old when he was in the temple. You know that people are certain ages in the scriptures. They had to be marking the years somehow
in order to remember how old they were. So when we look at birthday celebrations, we do it very simply. This is pretty much it, but the point is that the scriptures doesn't say that you should, and it doesn't say that you shouldn't, but there's evidence in the scriptures that somehow they were marking years, and so we look at it and go, if it doesn't say we can't and it doesn't say we should, then we go for the positive. We don't look at the negative. Our family lives with a ton of freedom, and when we're looking at things in the scriptures that you're not quite sure about, it doesn't say one way or the other, we choose the positive route. We choose the route that we believe that speaks Yehovah's heart to us, and believes the best about his heart towards us. But you know what? I do believe that a birthday should be more about the mom than about the kid, the baby, the one born.
That's true.
Because it's the mom that goes through a lot that day. So I did send my mom one time a thank you card. Said, thank you for birthing me on this day. It's all about you, not about me. Absolutely love. It's Psalms 18:16 through 19. There's so many in here that I love. My scriptures is full, but I kind of just like to have this little handy little book. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He drew me out of deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemies, from my foes who were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my disaster, but Yehovah was my support. He brought me out into a spacious place, and he rescued me because he delighted in me. And he likes me. And yes, and just one more. This one I quoted it. I've quoted at different feasts and stuff. But about Psalms 33:16 through 19 says, "No king is saved by the size of his army. No warrior escapes death due to his own great strength. A horse is a vain hope for deliverance. For despite its great strength, it cannot save. But the eyes of Yehovah are on those who fear him, and on those whose hope is in his unfailing love, to deliver them from death and keep them alive in famine." So until the king returns, I'm okay. I'm okay with whatever comes my way, because I know that he delights in me, and I know that he can keep me alive in famine, and we have experienced that. So thank you for being with us on my birthday.